So I'm going to talk about matte boxes here real quick. People have a slight misunderstanding about what a matte box is for. Obviously, it is for sunshade to a degree. We'll talk about that. Primarily, it's to hold filters, square rectangular filters, and a matte. And I think the matte has pretty much sat as a professional level tool for so long that many newer creators don't even know what a matte is. And it falls under the sunshade thing. So a matte box, an expensive one, tends to be kind of long, and it has sunshades on either side of it, and obviously the eyebrow on top. But internally, there's a piece of plastic, metal, whatever, usually plastic, with a small square in it. And that square is intended for a specific focal length of lens. The square is for additional flare reduction, because the matte box obviously is, let's say this big, but the lens can only see this much of the imaging circle. So the matte creates this little window that the lens can see through, but then errant light can't come into the lens from other angles. Because while anamorphic flares are very fun, and veiling glare is sometimes very fun and all that, sometimes you don't want it. A lot of times you don't want it. And there was actually, I can't remember the film, I probably should have looked this up, but there was like the first movie that had a lens flare in it, and everyone was like, whoa, that's weird. You didn't see optical aberrations like that in movies. So this is a cinema lens. This is the Nanomorph LF 55 millimeter. And this is a KNF clamp-on matte box. As you can see, it's just clamped on the lens. Now, I've seen a lot of creators who will do this clamp-on, and then there will be nothing in here. And while the eyebrow can be helpful for stopping light from coming up top, other than that, this isn't doing anything for you, right? If you don't have a filter, and if you don't have like a big filter in there, there's no real point in getting the matte box. There used to be this whole like, well, then people take you more seriously on set. And it's like, well, which set? If you're working with, I don't know. Depends on who you're working with, who thinks that kind of thing is necessary. But that's not, I just noticed you can see that. Ew. So what I've done is, going back to the idea of 3D printing, I've 3D printed mattes. This is what a matte looks like. Exactly as I described. Big piece of plastic, and it goes in the matte box. Now, they are not normally this big. Hold on, let me do a little bit of. So I've made this the size of a filter. So it's 4 millimeters thick, very big. I had to do some insane math and a few test prints to figure out how big the aperture there should be, but I figured it out. And so it goes in like a filter would go in. Try to do this for you. There you go. Right? And then that goes in the matte box where the filter would normally go. Now, the nice thing about this matte box is it's a screw-on matte box, so it only works with lenses that have a screw-on filter. So that is one thing. Not all of them do that. Certain clamp-on matte boxes clamp onto the outer diameter of the lens. There you go. And that's what a matte looks like. Notice there's just enough room in there that the lens can see, but if a light is coming from like here, it's not gonna hit. And then I've got that, and there you go. Now I've got very good sun shading. Now, is this doing a ton? No, because normally mattes sit kind of far out, right? So you get a lot more, as I said, errant light protection. But it does do something. And honestly, if we want to talk about stuff just being to kind of look interesting and professional, that's what that's for, and it's very, very thick, so it's sturdy. And to a degree, you get a little bit of lens protection, right? Because things can't hit it from, in there. And I just thought that was a fun little project to do. Over here, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm printing off the other 4. I'm actually going to print off 8. I'm going to print 4 for large format and 4 for Super 35. And so The longer the lens gets, the smaller this hole will get, which means that the light protection gets a little bit. On a very wide lens, the matte might only be that big, and you know, what is that for? But there you go. There's some more fun 3D printing things you can do. I'm sure if you're a math genius, you can prototype that a lot faster than I did. I did a lot of like holding my hand in front of the lens and going like, all right, what's that? And then taking calipers and going like, okay, that's 40 millimeters, and then printing off like a thin sheet layer and then laying it in front and going, you know. But I just thought that was fun to use the matte. Again, clamp-on matte boxes don't have a holder for a matte. And again, the matte is usually further away because that helps with the incoming light. The closer the matte gets to the front of the lens, the less angular safety you have. But I don't know. It for, you know, the price of less than a can of cola. I thought that was just a fun little thing to do. So there you go. That's what a matte is, if you didn't know. And you can 3D print one for your filter tray. They are 4 millimeters thick. And then I would measure the internal diameter of the filter holder, because if you look it up, or if you have a filter, you just measure that. But they're not, you can't just put in 4 by 5.65 because it's not going to fit. Always measure when things are supposed to go inside other things. You got to measure. Yeah, Mattebox for its proper use. Stupid but fun.